What is Plan B once President Trump has pulled us out of this deal?
Well, that's precisely the question I keep trying to ask, and there is no answer because there isn't one, unless you consider Plan B just being total chaos, total disruption, and also perhaps with the sort of, as I've called them, the regime change crew back in business at the White House, and obviously enabled by the Prime Minister of Israel and indeed by allies in Saudi Arabia and in the Persian Gulf states. That's what they would like to see an America squeeze Iran as hard as possible so that it implodes. That didn't happen during the years of the toughest sanctions, as you know, Bianna, having covered the business world. For more than a decade, the toughest sanctions ever mounted were put on Iran. Not only did it not collapse, it did not cry uncle, and nor did it stop enriching. The only time that it came to a negotiation to actually stop enriching and contain its nuclear deal was under a so-called win-win negotiation with the United States and the rest of the world powers. So the question is, what happens next? Are we going to go back to a militarization of this situation? And the reports you've just heard from Oren and the increasing escalated tension in that part of the world simply plays right into the hands of those who are worried that the choice is an Iran which does now decide to leave the deal and break out to a much more dangerous nuclear program, or military to try to stop it, military intervention. And this is not encouraging at all.
And it could play into the hands of the hardliners within Iran, right, who are also against the deal. President Rouhani maybe doesn't come across as a moderate to Western countries, but is considered a moderate in Iran, really went out to bat for this deal and sacrificed a lot, saying that it would help restore the economy. If the president now tears up this deal, or at least the U.S. leaves the deal, imposes more sanctions, what could that possibly mean domestically for the country?
Well, it can mean another almighty political fight, and we don't know where those chips will fall. And, of course, President Rouhani, who actually is a moderate within their system, he and his foreign minister, Javad Zarif, sort of brought the consensus in Iran along and got the supreme leader to agree to all this, parliament. All of those people who have to be brought along came along. But, of course, as you mentioned, there is a very strong group of those who do not like it. And those are the Revolutionary Guard, the very people that Israel, the United States, Europe, and others want to see contained. If the hardliners are emboldened, then they could have their way in Iran, and that would mean that it would be much worse for Israel, the United States, Europe, the region, etc. So it is really hard to see how, despite the failings of the deal, in fact, that it doesn't contain every single issue with Iran, it's hard to see how tearing it up, or at least the United States pulling out and making it more difficult, how that makes anyone safer, how sort of chipping away at one level of containment and constraint, how that makes anybody any safer without a plan B.
Yes,
and as you know, the international community has vouched that Iran has maintained its end of the deals ever since it's been in place.
Yeah, well, President Trump says it's defective at its core. Christiane, great to have you on for your expertise. Appreciate it, and good to see you.